So the weather has warmed pretty significantly. It's well into like the 50s or something. It's starting to feel like late winter, even though we haven't even reached the midpoint. Water's still sooty. But what I want to do is test these things. Where did I put them? How to rig a drop shot for a fishing float. So you remember these? That's what we're testing. It looks like you need a double wrap. In other words, wrap it down once with the lead core and bring it back up a second time to really get the it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Well, by the way, this is the rig I'm using. I'm actually using a drop shot rig here, as you can see there. Come up a little ways. There's my hook. Uh-oh, come on. Sometimes it'll tangle on you on the way back in. Drop shot with our slinky weight, with our stem swivel weight. Come up about 6 inches of a drop shot. Then there's our float that I make. Then it's going up to a bead and we're fishing on them about 3 or 4 feet deep. The point is, you see the difference in the size of the weight? This one's about twice as heavy because it has twice as much weight on it, and it's just enough weight. The thing I like about this is with the lead core line, I can wrap around exactly enough weight to set the cocking rate just right. You don't want too much weight on it, but you want just barely enough weight for it to set up. And it can't hardly film it because there's just too much sunlight right now to do that. But these are turning out rather nicely. And when you have the weight onto the bottom like that, it leads to fewer tangles on the cork. The fish aren't shallow, so we're not going to catch anything, and so sometimes you just go fishing just to test your gear. Now's the time to test. And I'm more and more impressed with this little slinky weight thing. There's a lot of things I can do with it, as opposed to just straight up split shots. Split shots are great, but sometimes it's best to be able to custom add or subtract weight as you really need to. Okay, so before I let you go, let me show you how I rig this whole thing up with a drop shot, one of my floats with a drop shot. For a drop shot rig on a bobber, you're going to need 2 beads. I have 8mm beads. It's what comes with my kits. Put 1 bead on, put the bobber on, or the slip float on, through the swivel here. First try. Then you put the second bead on. Attach your weight. Now if you want to use a split shot, you just simply tie a double overhand knot here and just put your split shot above that double overhand knot. Or if you're using one of my swivel thingies, you can just tie that on with whatever your favorite knot. Whatever weight you're using, put the weight on the bottom. That's all that matters with this rig. I mean, everybody calls it drop shot, but the real name is paternoster. Anything that's weight on the bottom, hook up top is a paternoster. Doesn't matter what new name they call it. Doesn't matter if they call it Tokyo rig or whatever. It's a paternoster. Once you have your weight attached, whether it be a split shot, egg sinker, slip sinker, anything, whatever your weight is, what I do for drop shot specifically on a float, I only go one hook because two hooks is just not manageable. I will come up, about 6 inches or so, maybe 8 inches, and I will tie a dropper knot. Dropper knot's tied here. You take a length of rope. You need to get on just animatedknots.com. They're far better than I can illustrate here. All right, there's your dropper. You see, I don't know if you can see that or not. Dropper. And the weight at the bottom. Now you're going to need some twine, some string, right? Now above that dropper, about 3 inches, tie about a 3 overhand knot above that string. One, for some reason it singed up before, all right? And that's basically going to set your lower point, because if you don't, the bobber will slip all the way down and off the so that way the bobber won't come down any further than that. Okay, and then for the bobber, for the upper, remember we have our bobber up here, and you have that bead. You need to tie another knot up there to set your depth. Another triple overhand knot. You're going to put it on one side, loop it over. It's just a stopper knot. Again, animatedknots.com is where you want to go to learn to tie knots. 1, 2, 3 is usually enough. Tie it tight. Snip the tag ends. Some people will leave a little tag end on there just so they can, because sometimes when water gets in it, it can get a little loose. And that, my friends, is your drop shot rig for a fishing float. The thing is, yes, this will wind up in through the eyes of your rod onto the reel even, and you set your depth here. So here you want to fish 15 foot deep. You set that 15 foot deep, and you'll reel that all the way up through the eyes, and you'll reel it up about right there. Now a drop shot rig with this bobber works very, very well. In general, what I found with these bobbers that I make is that you want you generally want your bobber here to be really not really any longer than the bobber itself in general. That's why I like the 6 foot or the 6 inch or the 9 inch version of this. The idea is that you're going to throw out, plop in the water, and that will sink down, you know, that plops in the water and sink. I don't know why I always keep doing that. It hits the water like this, and it'll sink until it hits that stopper knot, and it'll immediately just sit up there in the water, just like that. Now, why have the hook up top and the weight down the bottom? Well, it's the same reason you do it for a regular drop shot without a bobber. You're just trying to keep from hanging up, because a lot of times this will be down in treetops and stuff like that, and the hook will be up above it. I find that this rig casts longer, casts further, and I have fewer tangles. Now, if you just had the hook at the bottom and the weight up top, it tends to want to tangle around the bobber and not really stay loose, right? And so I find that with this rig, it's just a lot better.